All right, so we're gonna get started on the rear of the frame. Basically, last year when I got the car, the upper hoop, or upper, I don't know what you call it. This was all bad, so I went ahead and cut this out last year. It had a cracked weld and different things, so I cut all this out and redid the upper part last year. But I'm going to be redoing some of the frame rail itself and this lower stuff. I want to point out the main problem here, which is atrocious. So, by the way, I got my headlamp on, so that's why if the light's kind of terrible, that's your reasoning. So, if I go back, right, if you notice here, notice that this bar here is not level at all, and neither is this one. They're actually at two different angles. If I put my little cheap level on there real quick, you will see how far that guy is off. All right, so what they had going on, or somebody else, whoever did this prior, they had this bar welded across here, and then there was this frame hoop that sat lower than the rest of the car. It also had one up top. I cut that off previously. But you can see, weld-wise, I'm no perfect welder, but pretty bad stuff if we look, through here. The other thing is that, you see how they did this? They basically ran the crossbar over here, and then they welded a plate from the top of the frame rail to the bottom. But if you notice it is extremely thin. It's kind of hard for me to even get a good angle on it. It is real thin. I don't even know if it's 1/8 inch. If it's 1/8 inch, it's on the thin side. So they basically had, once again, some terrible welds. And notice the crack right there as well. It's already cracked. The other side I've welded as it was cracked earlier in the year too. So if you notice, look, that plate up there is bent. Overall, just not quality work. So that's got to go. So the plan is to redo this entire bar, setting it low, probably putting a notch in it somewhere over here. Now this bar here, I welded that on in order to cut off this lower hoop. When I was doing the front end, I wanted this thing to lay down as low as possible, so I cut off everything that might be below the frame rail. So the plan of attack as of right now is to come up here and do a little baby moon notch into the frame, and then I think I'm going to plate from here, this body mount on the right, all the way back down to the new bar. I'm going to put some little reliefs in each side for exhaust if I decide to run duals. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there already, and do a little baby new notch in the center here for the drive shaft, and basically stiffen this all up, plate it correctly, or what I think is correct, and then redo all the forward link stuff with the new Crown Vic rear end. So that's kind of where we're going next. I apologize for the video quality. I need to get some better lighting out of here. Maybe I'll make that a goal. As you see, like what I did before, like I said, made this all upper bridge with my shock mounts, bag mounts, all that stuff I did last year. I also did all this sheet metal here up and around to basically allow the car to sit lower. Before that bridge was not up very high, and the car sat up too high for my liking. So I started with the first obvious problem, that was the broken notch. You see I fish plated all of my joints there and everything else, so that's held up well. But we're gonna go through and fix some of this other nonsense, and that's where we're headed next. So thank you. On the rear suspension design, and wanting to redo the 4-link. The 4-link that was on it before was a universal 4-link, 6 inches, center to center holes, and just a basic out of the catalog weld in type of thing. Going through Max Fish, his book, here's the quick reference guide to the rear suspension stuff. He really breaks it down how you should set up your rear suspension. And when I went to go see if I could reuse some of the 4-link tabs and everything else, I realized that it was not going to work out the way the book describes it. Main problems were that the lower 4-link bar that I was going to run was not parallel at ride height. And so I went through the book, I read it, dissected it, took my time, and this is the design I came up with. So I'm gonna have my cross member here that I was working on. This is gonna be welded there, and then this is the rear frame axle tab. Now the rear frame axle tab, here's my axle. This is basically the upper part is designed off of the four-link that I took off the car. Part of the book describes is what they call instant center. So basically, if you would draw where these green lines are, if they go through the center of the holes of the four-link, they should end up at the front bumper, which is out here. So basically what I did on my CAD program here is I drew it up with the instant center and then designed my four-link tabs. Now, a lot of this was trial and error on the car underneath it, a lot of nights of frustration of trying to make everything work. One of the things I am doing that the book doesn't suggest you do is reuse parts. But being underneath the car and looking at the design or what was on there before, essentially I couldn't go too far off from the four-link dimensions that were already on there. And so I am going to basically try to reuse as much of the four-link as I can, but I'm going to cut out my own bars. Or my own tabs. So that's what we're designed here to do. I've got it, let's see here, I've got these drawn up over on my other program. I got it all programmed in. And let's go ahead and cut that out. All right, so pieces cut out, and I haven't been showing some of the fab side of it. I don't know. I thought maybe some of that stuff's boring to you guys. I don't know. But I thought I'd show this real quick. So what I did is I found a 3-inch pipe or something real close to the axle tube size. Tacked it on, made sure it's perfectly square, and then I basically built my four-link tabs or my brackets. I went ahead and gusseted them. That way I know nothing's gonna move. That, you know, probably overkill, but that's all right. So I have these, they're welded to this pipe. Got everything's nice and square and straight. I did the same thing to these ones as well. So ready to try to get them locked into the cross member that I already made, and then we'll go from there. All right, so new GoPro, I think it's 11 black with the light attachment and the little microphone thing. So I apologize, it's going to pick up a little bit more sound, but hey, at least we got better lighting. So from out here, we got we're tucking real nice, tucking almost all of the lug nuts. I actually did pick up a set of fender skirts that would actually add another like 5 inches to this, so you basically almost tuck the entire wheel. They're not obviously painted to match this car, but that could happen one day. So set it up to lay frame. As you see, we should be good to go. Let me slide underneath here and I'll show you how the frame stuff turned out. So I did spray bomb it black to try to keep it from rusting. So here's what we got going on. I ended up using a half of a piece of pipe to go up and over the axle. I ended up having to take out more of the frame than I wanted to. And so what I did, I wasn't, you know, ideally I probably should have cut the frame off and built a whole new C-notch, but yeah, I didn't want to go through all of that with the body on the car and all that good stuff. So this is what I did. I ended up cutting more out than I wanted to. I then went ahead and I added material to the top of the frame that goes in and goes all the way around the bridge. So I end up adding a lot of strength to the bridge itself, as you can see there, it kind of goes up and over. And then what I did in order to try to make sure the frame was also stronger is, you'll see here, this is the outside of the frame rail, and then we have our inside. I'll get to that plate in a second. But in between, about halfway through here, I welded another plate that went all the way up that touched the bottom of the frame and the top of the frame. So it went all the way up over the notch, all the way back here, and it goes all the way down here to this body mount. So I did that internally, welded all that in, and then I capped on the outside and came all the way down to my other cross member, and actually went up and over the cross member, so that way we've got tons of strength there. So I don't think that should be an issue with the frame strength. I guess we'll see, but you know, the way I don't see any scenario that, I mean, I'm going to mainly be cruising this thing. You know, if I get rear-ended or something, it's going to be a bad day no matter what. So I'm not really that worried about the frame, you know, fold in half from something, you know, besides a major, you know, type of being rear-ended or looping the car out and putting the back end into something, which hopefully will not ever happen. But you never know. It could get rowdy one day. All right, so we got this, here's the other crossmember piece I made. If you remember before in the other video or earlier in the video, this was a, you know, multi-angled things that were terrible with a giant hoop. So this is a piece of like 2x3 1/4-inch plate or tubing. I then notched it here, so that way we have enough for our exhaust to come through. Once again, I welded this all the way to the inside of, I guess technically the outside of the frame. So it's welded internally to the frame, all the way across the bottom, and then I plated over the entire thing. So once again, that sucker's not going anywhere. This thing will be an absolute nightmare. If anybody does try to cut this car apart one day, they might as well just start building a new frame. I couldn't imagine having to cut all this apart. Hopefully it won't be me. I have no intentions of getting rid of the car, but I do get bored and move on with other things. So crossmember wise, you can see here it was one piece, so we're nice and straight. It also is just above the bottom of the frame rail, so when the car is laid out, we're good to go there. It will not drag. Here's the notch for the drive shaft. Now it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to get the drive shaft in, but you notice I do have a one-piece aluminum drive shaft, so we're good there. I left enough room to when the car is actually at ride height or even lower, the drive shaft will not hit this, so we're good. Moving on to the other side, same thing. Got another notch here for another exhaust in case I run duals. Planning on the future just in case. I don't know what I'm doing exhaust-wise, most likely running duals. Other side, exact same, they match. The car is, the axle is touching the frame, well, just about touching my notch there, and I can, fully rotate the drive shaft around. We're good. We've got plenty of clearance, so we're good. So, and this is obviously pretty much laid out on the ground, so everything moves and turns. When it's fully laid on the ground, the frame will be hitting, so we should be good to go. You see kind of all this stuff here. 4-link wise, here are my tabs I made. Okay, so these are welded fully to my cross member. All right, and then I actually notched the bottom of the floors. That'll be in a different video. I'll show you what I did with the drive shaft tunnel inside, the seat, and all that stuff. But this is notched. I went a little bit higher than I needed to, just so that way I had extra room. It's all going to be underneath the seat, all hidden, so I've got no reason to make it miserable to work on. Give myself a little bit extra room in there. So you have our 4-link bars that go up. So this is the lower tab, or the front tab, I guess you'd say. And then back here, have the other tab. I did not paint this yet. Here's where it's notched still for a sway bar to go through. All right, bag mounts are on the axle. It goes up to the bridge. That's how the car was set up prior with the original drivetrain in it. And so I basically just kind of mimicked that, but made the suspension more, geometrically correct, or whatever word I'm looking for there. The shocks are mounted on the lower tab, or lower link bar, go up to the bridge. That's how it was set up prior. It rode decent. I'm hoping it rides better now that it's set up a little bit better. We also have the lateral bar that goes across from the front link to the rear. It's kind of a drag racing setup from, what I understand, but the car rode good, centered good. It actually drove really well considering how bad of quality all the work was done prior. So I'm hoping that I've cobbled it up just enough to where it'll even ride better. The only thing I don't have done back here is I don't have bolts in the bags on the lower part here, but that's easy. Actually, they're just kind of a pain in the butt to get to when the axle's all the way up. I need to kind of push them over a little bit to put the bolts in. So as I was out of frame there. So overall, pretty happy with everything. Like I said, I got the drive shaft tunnel here, notch, and drive shafts in. So we should be good to go. I'm pretty excited to have all that done. And so, yeah, that's how the rear end turned out. So thanks for watching. All right, got the car rolled outside so I could give it a bath. It had 2 inches of dust on it from all the metal cutting and stuff. And I know I probably should have had it covered, but I was in and out of it so much that in the car, out of the car, in the trunk area that I didn't cover it. So I wanted to get outside and wash it up and see it outside for a change and lay it on the ground. So here we are, laid out on the ground. We are hitting the frame. So we're laying frame. Got the wheels just loosely on there. Couple lugs. All right, fender is not obviously set gap wise or anything. Just wanted to set it down. I am pretty close fender wise. Got a little bit of gap there, so that's going to either be, I'm going to try to make some narrowed control arms or order up the Fat Man Fab ones. I just put this fender on just to see it, but overall pretty happy. Laid out on the ground. Control arm angle is not, nothing too crazy, but still looks like I should get plenty of lift. We're there. I mean, I didn't even have to notch the inner fender around the Crown Vic suspension. There was a plate that unbolts, and once I unbolted that, it fit just fine. I do have to cut the driver's side fender though, the inner fender, to make it fit, but that's no big deal. So here we go, this side here, Didn't put the fender on, obviously. Still have one of the white wheels. Debating whether I want to go white wheel with the roof or not. I think it might be a little much. I may go with the gunmetal wheels, but overall pretty happy with it. For some reason, I know I got the whole front end still off, but I feel like it makes the car look lower. I mean, not lower, but smaller in general with it sitting so much lower. It seemed like a really big car to me before. Now out here it seems smaller for some reason. So there she be. Get it back inside and keep on working. Try to finish the thing up in the next couple weeks.